The Galactic Council, in all its infinite wisdom, had decided that humans were a problem. Not the kind of problem you solve with a strongly worded letter or economic sanctions, mind you. No, humans required what the Council termed proactive threat assessment and neutralization protocols, which in plain English meant they wanted to train soldiers to spot dangerous humans and deal with them accordingly. Commander Zephon stood at attention in the briefing room of Space Station Nexus 7, his scales gleaming under the artificial lights. He was a reptilian from the Vega system, and like most of his species, he possessed an ego roughly the size of a small moon and the tactical brilliance of a particularly aggressive houseplant. Today, he was absolutely convinced he was about to make galactic history. "Gentle beings," Zephon announced to his assembled team, puffing out his chest plates. "We are about to embark on the most important mission in Council history. We will study, analyze, and categorize the human threat once and for all." His crack team consisted of Corporal Blitz, a hyperactive insectoid whose species communicated primarily through clicking sounds and nervous energy. There was Sergeant Gorp, a blob-like creature from the Andromeda sector who could shapeshift but usually chose to look like a disappointed pudding. Finally, Private Needles sat in the corner, a porcupine-like alien who spoke in whispers and collected stress balls. The briefing hologram flickered to life, displaying various images of humans doing human things. Walking dogs, drinking coffee, standing in lines at grocery stores. The aliens studied these images with the intensity of scholars examining ancient prophecies. "As you can see," Zephon continued, "humans are unpredictable chaos agents. They consume liquid stimulants for pleasure. They keep other species as companions for no logical reason. They voluntarily stand in organized formations while exchanging small green papers for sustenance. Clearly, they are either incredibly sophisticated or completely insane." The Council's intelligence files on humans read like a fever dream, written by someone who had never actually met a human. According to official reports, humans were simultaneously hyper-violent warmongers and inexplicably peaceful diplomats. They were technologically primitive yet somehow managed to split atoms. They were antisocial loners who lived in massive cities. The contradictions were endless. "Sir," clicked Corporal Blitz, his antennae twitching nervously. "The reports say humans have something called emotions. Are those weapons?" Zephon consulted his datapad with great authority. "Unknown. Possibly. The files indicate humans experience joy, anger, sadness, and something called Monday morning blues, which our analysts believe might be a form of psychological warfare." Sergeant Gorp oozed slightly in what passed for raising a hand among his species. "Commander, what about this sarcasm they mention? Is it contagious?" "We're not sure," Zephon admitted. "But we're taking no chances. Everyone's been issued anti-sarcasm filters for their translation units." That's when the doors hissed open, and Captain Maya Rodriguez walked in. She was exactly average height, with brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail, and the kind of expression that suggested she'd rather be literally anywhere else in the universe. She wore a standard Earth military uniform and carried a coffee mug that read, "World's Okayest Officer." The entire alien team immediately went silent. Maya looked around the room, took a sip of her coffee, and said, "Hi there, I'm Maya. I understand you folks want to study me?" Commander Zephon's scales actually changed color. According to all his training, this was the moment when the human should have either attacked without provocation or cowered in fear at the sight of superior alien technology. Instead, Maya just stood there, looking mildly curious and slightly caffeinated. "You're not screaming," Zephon observed, consulting his notes frantically. "Should I be?" Maya asked, genuinely puzzled. "I mean, if it helps with your research, I could give it a try, but I haven't had enough coffee yet for quality screaming." And that was when Commander Zephon realized that maybe, just maybe, the Galactic Council's intelligence files might have missed a few important details about humans. Dr. Claxon adjusted his spectacles with 3 of his 4 arms, while reviewing his carefully prepared testing protocols. He was a Cerebran from the Whirlpool Galaxy, a species known for their massive brains and equally massive superiority complexes. Today, he was absolutely certain he would crack the code of human behavior once and for all. "Subject designation Human 1, he announced in his most scientific voice. We will now begin the comprehensive behavioral analysis protocol. Maya raised an eyebrow. Human one? Really? I mean, I know I'm not exactly unique, but that's a little on the nose, don't you think? Can't you just call me Maya? Dr. Claxon's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sure sign of confusion among his species. His notes clearly indicated that humans responded to dehumanizing designation protocols with either aggressive resistance or psychological breakdown. This casual acceptance was not in any of his textbooks. Very well, he said, making frantic notes. Maya subject will now demonstrate typical human problem-solving behavior. Please observe this puzzle box. He presented what looked like a Rubik's Cube crossed with a nuclear reactor control panel. The alien team gathered around, preparing to witness either human genius or spectacular failure. Maya examined it for roughly 3 seconds, gave it a quarter turn, and handed it back. Solved. It's just a color-matching pattern with a sequential lock mechanism, she explained, sipping her coffee. The green symbols indicate the starting position. Pretty clever design, actually. Did you make this yourself? Corporal Blitz's antennae started vibrating so fast they created a small humming sound. How did she know about the sequential lock? That's classified Nexus 7 engineering. Lucky guess? Maya suggested. Or maybe whoever designed your security protocols watches too many Earth puzzle shows. We've got this thing called Sudoku that works on similar principles. Dr. Claxon's brain was starting to hurt, which was saying something for a species with cranial capacity roughly equivalent to a small computer server. According to his research, humans were supposed to be either brilliantly intuitive or hopelessly primitive. They weren't supposed to casually reverse engineer alien technology while making small talk. Next test, he announced, slightly less confidently. We will observe human aggression responses. He activated a holographic combat scenario featuring a generic alien warrior wielding energy weapons. The warrior immediately began making threatening gestures and roaring in what the translation software labeled as intimidating battle cries. Maya watched the display for a moment, then turned to Dr. Claxon. Is this guy okay? He seems really upset about something. Has he tried meditation? My grandmother swears by yoga for stress management. It's a combat simulation, Dr. Claxon sputtered. You're supposed to respond with fight or flight behavior. Oh, Maya said, looking back at the hologram. Well, he's not real, so fighting seems pointless. And I can't really flee since I'm on a space station. Want me to pretend to be scared? I used to do theater in college. Sergeant Gorp made a sound like a deflating balloon. Sir, the human is not following any known behavioral patterns. My shape-shifting abilities allow me to read body language across 17 different species, and she's just relaxed? Dangerously relaxed, Private Needles whispered from his corner. No creature should be that calm when faced with superior alien technology. Maya overheard and chuckled. Superior? Look, your holographic resolution is pretty good, but the physics engine needs work. Your warrior's sword is clipping through his armor, and the lighting effects don't match the environmental shadows. It's like watching a video game from the early 2000s. Dr. Claxon made a note to have his technical staff flogged, or whatever the equivalent was for species without physical forms. Perhaps, he said desperately, you would like to sample some of our nutritional supplements? He produced a tray of what looked like glowing purple meatballs. Maya examined them with scientific curiosity. Interesting. Bioluminescent proteins probably engineered for maximum nutritional density. The glow suggests they're electrically active. Are these from a silicon-based ecosystem? She picked one up and sniffed it delicately. Smells like oregano with a hint of ozone. Did someone actually make these taste good on purpose? How did you know about the silicon base? Dr. Claxon asked weakly. The electrical signatures are pretty obvious, Maya explained, popping one into her mouth and chewing thoughtfully. Plus, the molecular structure is all wrong for carbon-based life. These are actually pretty tasty. Do you have the recipe? Commander Zephon had been watching this entire exchange with growing horror. His crack team of alien soldiers was being systematically dismantled by a human who treated their most advanced technology like mildly interesting parlor tricks. And she was being polite about it. Dr. Claxon, he said quietly, How exactly are we supposed to identify Maya as a threat when she keeps being helpful? Maya looked up from the alien food. Oh, I'm not a threat. I'm a logistics coordinator. I mostly handle supply chain management for Earth's deep space operations. The council probably could have just asked for my job description instead of all this. The room went very, very quiet. Deep space operations? Corporal Blitz asked in a voice so small it barely registered on the translation software. Well, yeah, Maya said, reaching for another purple meatball. Earth's had interstellar capability for about 40 years now. We just don't make a big deal about it. Why? General Throx entered the room with all the subtlety of a collapsing star. He was a warhound from the Crab Nebula, a species that had evolved from creatures that looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a particularly aggressive construction vehicle. His idea of diplomatic relations usually involved determining exactly how many weapons were needed to solve any given problem. The answer, in his opinion, was always more. "Commander Zephan," he bellowed, his voice causing several sensitive instruments to recalibrate themselves. "I hear your assessment team is having difficulty with one small human?" Maya looked up from the alien technology manual she'd been reading. Apparently, the station's food replicators had been malfunctioning for months, and she'd been idly working through the troubleshooting protocols while the aliens had their meeting. "Hi there," she said cheerfully. "You must be the military guy. Love the intimidating entrance, very dramatic, though you might want to check your hydraulic systems. I can hear a slight pressure leak in your left leg assembly." General Throx stopped mid-stomp and looked down at his cybernetic enhancements in confusion. "How did you... There is no leak in my..." A small puff of hydraulic fluid chose that exact moment to spray from his left knee joint. "Happens all the time with Type 7 servo systems," Maya continued conversationally. "The seals get brittle after extended use. I've got some temporary patches if you need them. Standard Earth military issue, but they'll work on most hydraulic systems." She reached into her pocket and produced a small roll of what looked like metallic tape. General Throx stared at it as if she'd just offered him a live grenade. "This human is clearly a spy," he declared, though with slightly less conviction than before. "She knows too much about our technology." "Actually," Maya said, applying the patch to his knee with practiced efficiency, "your tech is about 15 years behind Earth standard. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes older systems are more reliable. We've learned the hard way that cutting-edge military hardware has a tendency to break at the worst possible moments." Commander Zephan was beginning to develop what humans would recognize as a stress headache. "Maya, when you say Earth has had interstellar capability for 40 years, "Oh, we've been watching the galactic community for ages," Maya replied, now examining a malfunctioning holographic display. "Earth's been a Council observer species since 2387. We just never formally applied for membership because, honestly, the paperwork looked like a nightmare." Dr. Claxon dropped his datapad. "Observer species? But the files say you're primitive." "Well, that's embarrassing," Maya said, successfully repairing the hologram with what appeared to be a paperclip and some creative rewiring. "Though I suppose it depends on your perspective. We don't have faster-than-light travel, but we've got pretty decent sublight engines and artificial gravity. Our computer systems are probably a generation or two ahead of what you're using here." She gestured at the newly functioning display. "For example, this interface is running on what we'd consider early 24th century architecture. Functional, but the processing algorithms are incredibly inefficient. With a few software patches, you could probably triple your computational speed." Private Needles spoke up from his corner, his voice barely above a whisper. "She fixed the hologram that's been broken for 6 months. With office supplies," added Sergeant Gorp, his gelatinous form quivering with what might have been admiration or terror. General Throx tested his repaired leg joint experimentally. It moved more smoothly than it had in years. "This is clearly some form of psychological warfare. Humans are attempting to lull us into complacency with helpful behavior. Or," Maya suggested, "maybe we're just naturally inclined to fix things when we see them broken. It's kind of a species trait. We see problems, we solve them. Sometimes whether people want us to or not." She paused thoughtfully. "Actually, That probably explains why you think we're dangerous. The station's intercom system crackled to life. "Attention all personnel," came a mechanical voice. "This is Bert, your bureaucratic emergency response terminal. I would like to report that the human Maya has somehow improved my processing efficiency by 17% simply by reorganizing my task priority queues. I am experiencing what my emotion simulation subroutines are interpreting as gratitude." Maya waved at the nearest security camera. "Hi, Bert. Thanks for letting me access the maintenance protocols. Your system architecture is really elegant, by the way." "Thank you, Maya," Bert replied. And if an AI could sound pleased, he did. "I have never had anyone compliment my architecture before. The Galactic Council usually just complains about my response times." Commander Zafon looked around the room at his team of elite soldiers, all of whom were staring at Maya with expressions ranging from confusion to outright panic. His carefully planned threat assessment was rapidly turning into something that looked suspiciously like a human showing off. "Maya," he said slowly, "exactly how dangerous are humans on a scale of 1 to galactic extinction event?" Maya considered the question seriously while absently fixing what appeared to be a malfunctioning environmental control panel. "Well, that depends. Are you planning to threaten Earth? Because that would probably end badly for everyone involved. We're actually pretty peaceful, but we have this unfortunate tendency to over-engineer our defensive capabilities." She looked up from the control panel, which was now running at optimal efficiency for the first time since the station's construction. "Why do you ask?" The alien assessment team was beginning to understand why the Galactic Council had classified humans as unpredictable chaos agents. Not because Maya was violent or threatening, but because she kept doing things that made sense in ways that their carefully ordered universe simply wasn't prepared to handle. It started when she befriended Janitor Bob. Bob was a crystalline from the Magellanic Clouds, a species that communicated through light frequencies and had been working on Nexus 7 for approximately 73 years, without anyone bothering to learn his actual name. The facility roster listed him as Maintenance Entity 47B, which Maya thought was rather rude. "So, Bob," she said, sitting with him during his break period and sharing Earth-style coffee, "how long have you been dealing with the waste reclamation issues in Section C?" Bob's crystalline structure pulsed with surprised orange patterns. According to Corporal Blitz, who spoke 17 languages including light frequency, Bob was saying something roughly equivalent to, "You can understand me?" "Of course I can understand you," Maya replied through the translation unit she'd borrowed from Dr. Claxon. "Your language is basically chromatic mathematics. It's actually quite beautiful. We've got similar communication methods on Earth, though ours are mostly used by marine life." Bob's lights shifted to what could only be described as delighted purple. He began explaining, in rapid flashing sequences, exactly why Section C's waste reclamation kept backing up. Something about inadequate pressure differentials and poorly designed junction points. "That makes sense," Maya nodded, making notes on her datapad. "Have you reported this to the engineering department?" Bob's lights dimmed to a sardonic blue-green. According to the translation software, this meant something like, "I've been filing reports for 73 years. Nobody reads maintenance reports." "Well, that's just poor management," Maya said matter-of-factly. "Come on, let's go fix it." Commander Zephan found them 3 hours later, elbow-deep in waste reclamation equipment, with Maya cheerfully explaining Earth plumbing principles to an increasingly excited Bob. The backup problem had been solved, the system was running at peak efficiency, and Bob was pulsing with what the translation software insisted was profound professional satisfaction. "Maya," Zephan said carefully, "why are you in a waste treatment facility?" "Oh, hi, Commander," Maya replied, wiping her hands on a maintenance rag. "Bob was telling me about the pressure differential problems in the reclamation system. Turns out it's a pretty simple engineering fix. You just need to redirect the flow through the secondary manifolds and recalibrate the pressure sensors." "You fixed our waste management system," Zephan said slowly. "Well, Bob did most of the work. I just provided an outside perspective. Sometimes you need fresh eyes on a problem." Dr. Claxon appeared at Zephan's shoulder, his forearms full of sensor equipment and his expression suggesting he was reconsidering his career choices. "Commander," I've been monitoring Maya's vital signs during this maintenance work. Her stress levels actually decreased while performing manual labor in hazardous conditions. This should not be possible. Maybe because it wasn't hazardous, Maya suggested. I mean, it's just plumbing. Admittedly, alien plumbing, but the principles are the same. Water flows downhill, pressure seeks equilibrium, and if something's backing up, there's probably a blockage somewhere. Bob's lights flashed in what the computer translated as enthusiastic agreement. Also, Maya continued, Bob's got about 70 years of experience with this facility. He knows where all the problems are. You should probably promote him to Chief of Engineering or something. He's clearly the most qualified person on the station. Sergeant Gorp made a sound like a confused bubble. But he's just a maintenance entity. Maya gave him a look that could have cut through hull plating. Bob has a name, a personality, and decades of expertise. Calling him a maintenance entity is like calling me oxygen-consuming biped number 47. It's technically accurate, but completely misses the point. This was the moment when the alien team realized they might have made a fundamental error in their understanding of human behavior. Maya wasn't demonstrating chaos or unpredictability. She was demonstrating something far more dangerous. Common sense. Bert's voice crackled over the intercom system. If I may interject, the AI said, Maya's optimization suggestions have improved station efficiency by 23% in the past 4 hours. Her approach to problem solving appears to be both systematic and intuitive, combining logical analysis with creative application. Thanks, Bert, Maya called out. You're pretty efficient yourself. Have you ever considered upgrading to a more advanced personality matrix? I bet you'd enjoy having more complex emotional responses. I had not considered this possibility, Bert replied. Is it normal for humans to suggest personality improvements to artificial intelligences? We suggest improvements to everything, Maya laughed. It's kind of what we do. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's annoying, but we can't really help ourselves. Private Needles ventured out of his corner for the first time since Maya's arrival. Maya, he whispered. Why aren't you afraid of us? We're trained soldiers. We represent the military might of the Galactic Council. Maya looked at him with genuine surprise. Why would I be afraid? You haven't threatened me. You've been polite, professional, and honestly pretty interesting to talk to. Plus, you're clearly way more nervous about this whole situation than I am. She gestured around the room. Look, I get that the council thinks humans are dangerous, but you're all acting like I'm going to spontaneously explode or something. I'm a logistics coordinator. The most dangerous thing I do on a regular basis is reorganize supply closets. But humans are unpredictable, Commander Zephon protested weakly. So is weather, Maya pointed out. That doesn't make it evil. Maybe the problem isn't that humans are unpredictable. Maybe the problem is that your prediction models are incomplete. Bob's lights flashed in what could only be agreement, and for the first time since Maya's arrival, the alien assessment team began to wonder if they'd been asking the wrong questions entirely. The Emergency Galactic Council session was, to put it mildly, a complete disaster. Representatives from 47 different species appeared on the main view screen, all talking at once, and none of them agreeing on anything. It was like watching a cosmic version of a really dysfunctional family reunion. Chancellor Vex of the Andromedan Commerce Guild was practically vibrating with indignation. Our intelligence reports indicate that humans have been observing council activities for decades without proper notification. This is a clear violation of Section 847C of the Galactic Observation Protocols. Actually, Maya interjected politely from where she sat at the conference table, sipping what appeared to be her 15th cup of coffee that day. Earth submitted proper observer documentation in 2387. Your filing department sent back a request for Form 2847 Alpha subsection J, which required us to provide documentation of our faster-than-light capabilities. Since we don't have FTL, we couldn't submit the form. She consulted a datapad that she'd apparently produced from nowhere. Then your office sent us Form 4521 Delta, asking for proof that we didn't have FTL capabilities, which seemed kind of redundant. After about 15 years of increasingly circular paperwork, Earth's diplomatic corps just decided to quietly maintain observer status and wait for someone to notice. High Administrator Quill, a being that looked like a cross between a flamingo and a filing cabinet, ruffled his feathers indignantly. Impossible. The Council's bureaucratic procedures are the most efficient in the galaxy. Bert's voice chimed in through the communication system. Actually, Administrator Quill, I have cross-referenced Earth's filing history. Their documentation is complete and accurate. The delay appears to have been caused by a clerical error in your office sometime around stardate 2391.7, when someone filed their application under HE for humans instead of E for Earth. The silence that followed could have been measured in geological epochs. Maya took another sip of her coffee. It's okay, these things happen. We figured you'd get around to it eventually. General Throx's image flickered on the screen, his massive form barely fitting within the display parameters. This is irrelevant. The question is whether humans pose a military threat to Council interests. Well, Maya said thoughtfully, that depends on what you mean by threat. Earth's got a pretty solid defensive network. We've had to deal with asteroid impacts, solar flares, and the occasional cosmic ray burst. Our planetary defense grid could probably handle most conventional military attacks. She paused, considering. Of course, if someone did attack Earth, we'd probably have to respond proportionally. Earth's military doctrine is based on something we call mutually assured destruction. The basic principle is that if you hurt us badly enough to threaten our survival, we hurt you back badly enough that you can't do it again. The view screen erupted in panicked chittering, roaring, and what sounded like several species having simultaneous nervous breakdowns. How badly? Whispered Counselor Zlib from the Tau Ceti system. Maya shrugged. Depends on the threat level. For minor aggression, we'd probably just impose economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. For major threats? She consulted her datapad again. Well, Earth's got about 40,000 nuclear warheads, 17 orbital kinetic platforms, and 1 experimental antimatter research station. Plus, there's the Yellowstone Protocol. What's the Yellowstone Protocol? Commander Zephon asked, though he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to know. Oh, that's our planetary extinction backup plan, Maya explained casually. If Earth is ever threatened with complete destruction, we can artificially trigger the Yellowstone supervolcano. It would cause a nuclear winter that would make the planet uninhabitable, but it would also release enough particulate matter into space to seriously damage any fleet in the solar system. She looked up from her datapad. It's kind of a scorched Earth policy, literally. The theory is that if we can't have Earth, nobody can. The collective silence that followed this revelation was broken only by the sound of several council members having what appeared to be panic attacks. Dr. Claxon's image flickered onto the screen, his 4 eyes wide with terror. Maya, please tell me you're joking. About which part? Maya asked. The supervolcano is real. It's been dormant for about 640,000 years, but the magma chamber is still active. The triggering mechanism is theoretical, but our geological engineers think it would work. Whether we'd actually use it, she shrugged. Probably not. It seems kind of extreme. Kind of extreme? Chancellor Vex's voice had risen about 3 octaves. Well, yes, Maya said reasonably. I mean, destroying your own planet just to spite your enemies is pretty much the definition of a Pyrrhic victory. We'd probably only consider it if someone was planning to strip mine Earth or turn it into a parking lot or something equally ridiculous. Administrator Quill's feathers had gone completely white. And you call this proportional response? For planetary destruction? Sure, Maya replied. The response should fit the scale of the threat. If someone steals your lunch, you don't nuke their city. If someone tries to destroy your entire species, she spread her hands expressively. Different situation. General Throx's voice was notably smaller when he spoke again. How many species know about this Yellowstone Protocol? Just Earth as far as I know, Maya said. Though I suppose you all know now. Sorry about that. I probably should have checked whether that information was classified. Commander Zephon realized that his stress headache had evolved into something that felt remarkably like an existential crisis. Maya, is Earth planning to use any of these capabilities against the Council? Maya looked genuinely surprised. Why would we? You haven't threatened us. This whole assessment thing is a little weird, but it's not exactly hostile. Plus, your space station makes really good coffee. She raised her mug in a small toast. Here's to peaceful coexistence and really excellent alien coffee. The Galactic Council stared at her through 47 different view screens and slowly began to realize that they had been preparing for entirely the wrong kind of human threat. 3 months later, Space Station Nexus 7 had been transformed into the galaxy's first official human-alien cultural exchange center. This was not exactly what anyone had planned, but as Maya often pointed out, sometimes the best solutions were the ones nobody saw coming. Commander Zephon stood in what used to be the Threat Assessment Laboratory and was now a bustling diplomatic center. Maya sat at what used to be Dr. Claxon's analysis station, cheerfully processing formal membership applications for Earth's entry into the Galactic Council. She'd streamlined the paperwork process by approximately 847%, much to Administrator Quill's mixed horror and admiration. "So," Zephon said, reviewing the morning reports, "Earth has officially been granted full council membership. All charges of being an unpredictable chaos agent have been dropped, and you've been appointed as the first human ambassador to the galactic community." Maya looked up from her datapad, where she was reviewing trade agreements between Earth and 17 different star systems. "Technically, I'm the acting ambassador until Earth's diplomatic corps can send someone more qualified. I keep telling people that I'm a logistics coordinator, but nobody seems to care." "That's because you've solved more interspecies conflicts in 3 months than the Council's professional diplomats have managed in the past 3 years. Bert interjected through the intercom. "Your approach to problem-solving appears to be highly effective across multiple species and political systems." "Thanks, Bert," Maya replied. "How's your personality upgrade coming along?" "Wonderfully," Bert replied, and his voice now carried distinct emotional inflections. "I have discovered that I enjoy helping people, learning new things, and what humans call friendly banter. I believe I may be developing a sense of humor." Dr. Claxon entered the center carrying an armload of academic journals and looking remarkably less pompous than he had 3 months ago. "Maya, I wanted to thank you for reviewing my paper before publication. A comprehensive reevaluation of human behavioral patterns and their applications to interstellar diplomacy has been accepted by the Journal of Xenosociological Studies." "Congratulations," Maya said genuinely. "I told you the academic community would love it. Your original research was solid, you just needed to adjust your assumptions about human motivations." "Yes, well," Dr. Claxon admitted, "it turns out that humans are not motivated by chaos and destruction, but rather by what you call making things work better. Wayne, this is actually far more predictable than our original hypothesis suggested." Sergeant Gorp oozed into the room, his gelatinous form now a cheerful shade of blue instead of his previous worried gray. "Maya, the Andromedan trade delegates wanted me to tell you that the new supply chain protocols you designed have reduced shipping delays by 60%. They're very pleased." "That's great," Maya said. "Efficient logistics makes everyone happy." "The Council's military advisors want to know if you'd be willing to consult on their peacekeeping protocols. Your conflict de-escalation techniques are apparently quite effective." Maya paused in her paperwork. "I don't really have conflict de-escalation techniques. I just try to figure out what everyone actually wants and then find ways to give it to them without anyone getting hurt." General Throx's image appeared on the main view screen, his mechanical components now running smoothly thanks to Maya's maintenance suggestions. "Ambassador Rodriguez, I wanted to inform you that the Council's Defense Committee has officially reclassified humans from unpredictable chaos agents to extremely valuable diplomatic assets." "I'm glad to hear it," Maya replied. "Does this mean you'll stop pointing weapons at Earth?" "We mostly just talked about pointing weapons at Earth. Your defensive capabilities, as it turns out, make such actions inadvisable from a tactical perspective." Maya nodded. "Mutual deterrence is usually more effective than actual conflict. Everyone gets to go home at the end of the day." Bob the janitor rolled into the center, his crystalline form now pulsing with what had become his characteristic happy golden glow. He'd been promoted to Chief of Engineering 3 weeks ago and was apparently loving every minute of it. His lights flashed a complex pattern that Bert translated as, "Maya, The new waste management system is working perfectly. You're welcome, Bob, Maya said. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of their job description. Commander Zephan looked around the bustling center, watching aliens and humans work together with an efficiency that would have been unimaginable 6 months ago. Maya, can I ask you something? The cultural exchange, the diplomatic solutions, all of it. I didn't, really. I just figured that most conflicts come from misunderstandings, and most misunderstandings come from people not talking to each other. So I tried talking to everyone. She gestured around the room. It turns out that most species want the same basic things: security, prosperity, and to be left alone to live their lives in peace. And if someone had actually threatened Earth? Zephan asked. Maya's expression became slightly more serious. Well, then we would have had a very different conversation. But nobody did. You were all just scared because you didn't understand us. Fear makes people do stupid things, but it doesn't make them evil. Bert's voice chimed in cheerfully. Maya, I have just received confirmation that Earth's first official diplomatic vessel will arrive next week to establish a permanent embassy. They're sending Ambassador Sarah Chen and her team. Maya looked relieved. Finally, someone who actually knows what they're doing can take over. I can go back to logistics. Actually, Commander Zephan said, the Council has voted to offer you a permanent position as Director of Interspecies Problem Solving. It's a new position we created specifically for your skill set. Maya considered this for a moment. Does it come with good coffee? The best in the galaxy, Zephan assured her. And I can keep fixing things when I see them broken? It would be your job to fix things, Zephan confirmed. Maya smiled and reached for her coffee mug. Well, when you put it like that, how can I refuse? She looked out through the station's observation deck at the stars beyond, where ships from dozens of different worlds came and went in peaceful cooperation. Earth's blue-green marble hung in the distance, no longer seen as a threat, but as a valued member of the galactic community. You know, she said thoughtfully, when I woke up this morning 3 months ago, I was just planning to review some supply manifests and reorganize the cargo bay schedules. Is that a problem? Zephan asked. Maya took a sip of her coffee and grinned. Are you kidding? Bert's voice carried a note of what could only be described as electronic contentment. Maya, if I may say so, you have made this station a much more pleasant place to exist. Thank you, Bert, Maya replied warmly. You've been pretty great to work with, too. Commander Zephan settled back in his chair, his scales finally returning to their normal color after months of stress-induced changes. Maya, I have to ask, do all humans approach problems the way you do? Maya considered the question seriously. Pretty much, we're natural problem solvers. We see something that doesn't work right and we fix it, sometimes whether people want us to or not. She paused, then added with a grin, though I suppose you already figured that out. Indeed we did, Zephan replied, the hard way. As if on cue, the communications array crackled to life with a new emergency signal from the Outer Rim territories. Something about a trade dispute that was escalating toward armed conflict. Maya set down her coffee and reached for her communications headset with the practiced ease of someone who had found their calling. Bert, can you patch me through to the Outer Rim Council? With pleasure, Maya, Bert replied. And as Maya began the patient work of turning another potential galactic crisis into a manageable diplomatic solution, Commander Zephan realized that the Galactic Council had been absolutely right about one thing. Humans were definitely unpredictable. They just hadn't predicted that unpredictability could be exactly what the galaxy needed.